Are you a woman that is a go-getter, that just is, let's get through this list and on to the next thing, and let's get disciplined and focused and hustle and move through this, and really in that space, that energy that is really masculine driven? Well, I'm here to tell you that that is very common for women because of all the responsibilities and things that they take on in their daily life. Now, the problem with that is not all women are masculine dominant. That is not their core energy. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the divine and wounded masculine energy. And again, I'm going to give you the question for you to identify what your core energy is. Stay tuned to this week's episode on the Reinventing Thyself podcast. We all have situations, experiences, and moments in our life when we know deep at our core we have to do something different. We have to pivot. And regardless of how big or small that pivot is, it requires us to change something in our life. And that change can feel really uncomfortable. However, it is that change that is creating something entirely new. And it is that newness that creates a very different way of life in one area or multiple areas of our life. What's this all about? It is all about reinventing thyself. My name is Michelle Shutter, and I'd like to welcome you to Reinventing Thyself. I am so glad that you joined me today, because it is here that we'll move beyond our old self, our old identity, and that trailer of garbage from the past that we like to pull into the future, but really need to ditch that hitch. It is here that we'll move into that place of reinvention and embracing the newness of it all. Are you ready to step into reinventing thyself? Because guess what? It is never too late, and your time is now. Let's get started. Hey there, welcome back to this episode 42, where we are going to talk about the divine and wounded masculine energies. If you missed episode 41, you're going to want to check that out, because that episode was all about the divine and wounded feminine energies. And episode 37, if you go back just a little bit more, that was an introduction to both energies, both masculine and feminine energies. Now, as I mentioned in the last episode, I had planned to release these last week and had them recorded and ready to go. And as I was about to drop them, I realized that I only did one aspect. I only did the wounded side for both feminine and masculine energies. And looking ahead at my schedule, I didn't have a space to fit in the divine. So I decided, rather than dropping those episodes, I was going to re-record them and publish them just at a later date, but publish them both pretty much on the same day so that they were available for people. Now, before we hop into this episode, I want to make sure I introduce myself. My name is Michelle Shutter, and I am a life and leadership coach for women that are ready to reinvent their self in some way. And let's face it, you already reinvent yourself on a daily basis. But yet there are things in life that can really set us back, or really make us wonder and tap into that space of, oh my gosh, like, who am I? What am I here for? This is all a new beginning, and these new beginnings are meant for you to move boldly and bravely through. And that's what this whole space of reinventing thyself is about. And one of the ways that we can do that is looking at our energy. So today, it's all about the masculine energy. And as a quick recap, everything is energy. Everything physical, everything non-physical. When you break it down to the little itty bitty particle, what remains is energy. Now, when we talk about feminine and masculine energy, it is not gender specific. Anybody that is a female experiences both feminine and masculine energy. Anybody that is a male experiences both feminine and masculine energy. However, everyone has a dominant energy, a core essence. And that question for you to ask yourself is, would you rather be cherished or respected? And don't think long about it, right? Like, boom, whatever pops into your head, go ahead and select that one. If you chose cherished, your core essence leans more towards feminine. If you chose respected, your core essence leads more towards masculine. Now, let's think about this, because if you are in a relationship and your spouse, let's say your core essence is feminine, however, you are mostly in the masculine energy, and your spouse or significant other is in the masculine energy, there could be a lot of friction. There could be a lot of collision there because you have two of the same energies. It's really important that we start to look at and really define what is our core essence, and are we in that core essence energy the majority of the time, or are we defaulting into the other energy, which is really turning our world and different aspects of our life in an upside down kind of way. So let's take a look at this masculine energy, because for me, I can tell you my core essence is feminine energy. However, I spend, and I've gotten so much better at it, but I do spend a whole lot of time in a masculine energy. And for a very long time, it was like I was unaware of that energy. And it did not serve me. It did not serve me to be in the masculine energy all the time and not disconnect from that and really get back into the feminine energy. Like, I completely disconnected from the feminine energy. And what does that lead to? That leads to overwhelm, burnout. Like, you want to power yourself down and not power yourself up, right? Like, it's that space of, oh my gosh, like, I need a break from myself. And that isn't a healthy space to be in. So let's talk about these characteristics. And as I talk about them, I want you to reflect on, oh yeah, that characteristic is me in this situation. Or, oh yeah, like, I show up like this. Because again, the majority of women generally are feminine energy, their core essence. But when we operate in this masculine energy and forget to what a coach has once told me, take your lady balls off, right? And tap back into that feminine energy, that's when things are not running smoothly. Everything is out of balance. There is no harmony. And so what we really want to do is create some balance, some harmony, some fluidity between these two energies. Okay, it isn't that we are going to be 100% in our core essence all the time. That doesn't happen. But we want to be able to create the awareness so that if we are in the wrong energy for an extended period of time, what do we do to get back into the other energy? So let's talk about the divine masculine. The divine masculine is very anchored. Unlike the feminine energy where flow and movement, the divine masculine is very anchored, loves to like live on the edge and really wants freedom. The divine masculine is also very disciplined, very focused, very practical, organized, very intelligent, a defender, very strong, stable, very secure. Accountability is very high, is very important. Being in integrity is very important. And there's just, you can feel the difference already between the divine feminine versus the divine masculine, right? That the divine masculine really is almost in a head space, whereas the divine feminine, it really leads from the heart space. And again, like all these characteristics like serve you at different times in different situations. But again, it's making sure that we're choosing the right one given the awareness that we have. Now, as I mentioned in the other episode, the wounded energy, let me back up for a second. The divine energy does make us feel good, right? The divine energy is more connected, more aligned to who we are and what we do. The wounded energy is that unhealthy space where it really is more ego-driven. It is fear-based. A lot of times it almost feels like it's been conditioned from society that we get into this wounded state and it becomes comfortable for us and we don't challenge it anymore because of that comfort zone. But when we're in the wounded masculine, it is, we are just trying to get our way at all costs. It doesn't matter what happens. Like, we just want it our way. We have a very strong need to be right. We are attached to success. We don't really connect very well. We fear failure. There is a deep inner sense of unworthiness. We're very critical, judgmental, controlling. We're stuck in our mind, a lot of anger, blaming, shaming, very rigid. And so when you think about the divine versus the masculine, right, the divine energies, if you heard me talk about the different levels of energy, are really like higher levels, 4, 5, 6, even 7, where that you're higher up on that emotional scale as well. The wounded side is like levels 1 and 2, and it is very low on the emotional scale. It doesn't make us feel good. Like when we really get clear and sit with it, this wounded masculine energy doesn't make us feel good, but yet at the same time, it's been conditioned, and so it feels natural. It's like the way it should be, even though it isn't an energy that serves us. Now, keep in mind that when we are wounded, and that's like the resentments and the judgment, the limiting beliefs, the wanting everything to be perfect, right? And again, it's not our fault that we're necessarily in this state because we've operated from an unconscious space. However, now that we know, it's our job to really transform the energy so that it serves us at a higher level, and to like heal some of the wounded part of us that has a tendency to show up. So really getting clear on what areas of my life am I showing up in the divine masculine and the wounded masculine. You can also take this now that you have the divine feminine and divine and wounded feminine. Take those and look at every area of your life from all 4 categories, right? So let's say, you are in a business, right? Am I operating my business from a wounded feminine, a wounded masculine, a divine feminine, or a divine masculine? A business is very masculine energy. So if your core essence is feminine and you're operating in masculine the majority of your day, you must find a way to disconnect and tap into that feminine and bring that divine feminine energy into your business, right? So look at that from your, financial, your career, your family, relationships, marriage, health, whatever it is. Look at all those areas and decide what energy are you using. For most people, they're going to have probably a range of different energies as well. Now, the first step in clearing all this is really having that awareness. You can't change something if you are not aware. Once you're aware, you get to shed light on it and really make that choice, make that decision. Is this how I want to operate? Do I want to operate from this space? If you do, great, because then it's a conscious choice. If not, then you have to decide what you want to do differently. Once you shed some light on it, then you get to take action, right? Like, how do I want to show up? That can be challenging to do solo because of the way that you've been conditioned, of the way that you've operated for so long that anything different doesn't feel natural. So be aware of all that when you are going through this process. As you begin to release some of that wounded masculine energy, you get to really it's almost this freeing sense. Remember, I talked about at the beginning that the divine masculine really seeks freedom. And it's like you get to give and operate from a place that feels free versus a place that feels more constricted. That when you are trying to control, when you are always have to be right, when you are so attached to success and can't accept a failure or fear that failure, that's a very constricting energy to be in. And so you really want to move to that expansiveness, which that's what the divine energy is about. Now, the goal in both of these is to really bring, or the goal with the feminine energy and the masculine energy is to provide that fluidity. Whether you are looking to do, more of an 80-20 type of thing or 70-30, but you even a 60-40 probably would be okay, where you spend the majority of your time in your core essence and then the remaining time in your non-core essence. The beauty of all of it is, though, that you want to create that harmony. You want to create that fluidity because you want to hold tight to that awareness that when I go into that masculine, okay, am I operating from a wounded or am I operating from the divine? And if this is not my core essence, how long do I want to stay there? Because even if you are in the divine masculine energy and that is not your core essence, you still have to have time and space to be in that your divine core essence as well. So when your two energies are healthy, you're going to feel that balance. And I mean healthy from a state of flow, right? From a state of exchange and a state of fluidity. You're going to have different outcomes in your life because there's going to be a different balance. There's going to be a different alignment with you and who you are. Now, again, a short episode, but very full of content, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. And I get that. Like, the journey is yours. Your journey is yours, but it wasn't meant for you to do alone. And if you no longer want to do this alone, and if you want to accelerate your results, then I absolutely want you to go to lifecoachingclassroom.com and get your name on the list so that when the doors open for the classroom, you can be one of the first members. Founding members are going to get something really, really awesome because you are the founding members, right? Like, you should have perks to something that is different from everybody else. And with this Life Coaching Classroom, you're going to have an opportunity to dive into these energies. Dive into the divine feminine and the divine masculine, the wounded feminine and the wounded masculine. And you don't have to do it alone. And again, when someone else can see something or offer a different perspective because you are too close to it, it will accelerate your results. So again, get your name on the list when you go to the website lifecoachingclassroom.com. Now, that's it. That's it for the two energies. I probably will drop another podcast this week to get myself back on schedule. But until then, I would love to hear what you are taking away from any of the energies. What is your core energy? Where do you operate from a divine feminine and a divine masculine? Where do you operate from a wounded feminine and a wounded masculine? And what do you want to do about that? Make sure you message me, DM me. My email is probably listed someplace as well that you can do that. But just know that when you are reinventing thyself, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a process and it's a new beginning. And those new beginnings can be scary. Those new beginnings can be overwhelming, but my wish for you is that you take your new beginning and you move boldly and bravely through it. And that is the process of reinventing thyself. Until next time. Well, what are you waiting for? Whether you've pivoted and are unsure or you're on the verge of pivoting, there is no better time than now for you to begin. Want to know why? Because if it wasn't the right time, the pivot wouldn't have shown up. And to get you started, I have got 3 shortcuts to reinventing thyself. Just head on over to www.reinventingthyself.com and you can download it there. And don't forget to message me with the shortcut that resonates with you the most. One last thing. I know you and I are not the only ones that have leaned into the pivot. Be sure to share this with others so they can be supported too. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting me in sharing this message. Until next time.